This is a prison story about Danny, the homeless juggalo kid who changed my life. So back in 2009, I was at Buckingham Correctional Center, and I had a good job, I had a good cellie, I had a good cell, like I was set up, I was comfortable. So I was down at the hot water spigot one day making a cup of coffee, and this dude just starts flipping out, just screaming about, "You're looking in my mirror, stop looking in my mirror." And he wasn't like having a breakdown where he was like keeping it inside, like he was being aggressive, like he was approaching people, he was doing crazy. So he started going around and just like yelling at people, and it was like, man, so I kind of saw him out of the corner of my eye and I paid attention. He went around the corner, so I went back to making my cup of coffee, and he came back, and before I even knew it, he had clocked me in the jaw and was trying to like punch me while I was down. So I got up and a fight ensued, and the officer in the booth saw it, and we both went to the hole. So by the time I had gone through the investigation and gone through the hearing, I couldn't go back to my cell, I couldn't go back to my job because somebody had already moved in there. So I was across the hall and I'm moving my stuff out of the hole, and I see this kid and I was just like, man, I don't know what to think. And on the way in, this kid who lived in the very far corner was like, "Yo, you from Tidewater? We from Tidewater down here." And I was like, oh man, this is not what I want to get into, like geographical neighborhood stuff. So I see this really skinny kid who had like kind of a lazy eye and really bad pluck tattoos all over his neck and all over his body. And I was like, I don't know what to make. He didn't have a TV, he didn't have stuff, like I didn't know what was going on. But he said, "Hey, what's up, man? I'm Danny." And I was like, okay, shook his hand, met him. Danny was amazing. Like, I don't even know how to put into words. He was such a contradiction because he was like, he wouldn't always take showers as often. I had to be like, "Yo, bro, like, time to get a shower." Like, there were so many things about him that were problems, but there were so many things that were just brilliant and beyond explanation. So he explained that he was a juggalo, and I was like, dude, what is a juggalo? I didn't even know. He was like, "Yo, like, it started out as an ICP thing, like a rap group, if you don't know, but it became a culture, like it's a way of being, and it's like a trailer park thing. Yeah, you'd have to kind of come to your own conclusions. But that was his culture. That's where he came from. He had either been living in trailer parks or been homeless for years at this point, but he had also grown up in a family that had introduced him to martial arts and meditation and introduced him to reading and all these things around the world. And he was like, I think I was 24, 25 at the time, and he was, I don't know, 3 years younger than me, and he was a journeyman or a master electrician. Like, he had read every book I'd ever thought of. He'd done an exhaustive study of religion. Like, he had devoted his life to learning and experiencing, whether he was on the street or in school or somewhere else. He was just a bizarre character. And so I saw him, and he was meditating, and he would do his martial arts at night, and I kind of wanted to learn. I was like, hey, this guy always seems happy. This guy seems to just like have a smile on his face. He seems super smart and super educated. Like, I want to learn from him. So I asked him about meditation. He said, okay, you want to sit? Let's sit. We'll just do 15 minutes, like we'll sit for the first time. And I did, and I was super uncomfortable, and I was agitated, and I had tried meditation a year before, but I hadn't really gotten into it. And so I did it, and he was like, all right, well, like, we're going to do it again tonight. And I was like, well, okay. Like, it gave me a structure. It gave me something to do, because having lost my job and lost everything that was going on, it felt like I needed something new to build. So he kind of helped me build that. So we meditated twice a day or sometimes 3 times a day for the whole time we were in the cell together. And then with the martial arts thing, he was like, oh yeah, I know a little bit, but I don't really know a lot. Like, he had been exhaustively practicing since he was a little kid. So his dad had taught him and his brothers and made them train and made them fight, which is like terrible and abusive, but it meant that he could really handle himself. And this kid was like 130 pounds, and I watched him, wrap me up, wrap everybody else up, like pin our arms together, punch, like he just beat the crap out of us. And so I got to start learning Wing Chun. I got to learn some Southern style, some like typical kind of karate stuff. And I was exposed to this whole new martial art and this discipline that was combining martial arts and meditation. And it was also like a reading thing. Almost every day he'd be like, yeah, you should read this book, just like offhandedly mention it. And sometimes it would happen in in the regular library, and other times I would have to get it ordered. And so it'd be exciting. It'd be like, oh, this is Brave New World Revisited. This is Aldous Huxley's like social treatise on whatever. And so I would read it and I would find it interesting. Or Ishmael by Daniel Quinn, which is still one of my favorite books. But I was going through these books and I was learning these things. It almost felt like I'd gone to some like academy where I was like studying and learning under somebody who knew the things that I wanted to know. I wanted to know martial arts. I wanted to know more about meditation. I wanted to reach some sense of kind of contentment with my life. Like, I wanted to be educated academically. Like, I'd done college classes, I had learned it, but there was like more. There was this kind of understanding or philosophy on the world that I didn't understand yet. And so every day I spent with Danny, as much as he might be obnoxious or as much as things came up, like I felt like I learned something. And I remember his date was coming up to get released, and I was disappointed. And I was like, basically wanting him to stay. Like, he was a great cell partner, like he was an incredible teacher, like, but obviously he didn't want to stay, so he went home. And I was sad. I was like, man, I'm gonna miss this guy, like I don't know what to think. And we had made a friend along the way, this guy named Buck, who had kind of connected with both of us, and he ended up going home a couple weeks later. And the only time I ever heard from Danny again was when Buck had gone home. He let Danny move in with him, and he sent us like a Christmas card or Thanksgiving card or whatever it was, basically saying like, hey, what's up, bro? And then something about my mom, because that was his big joke. And this guy basically came into my life randomly, only because I had gotten into a fight. This guy had a psychotic break. Only because we happened to be in the cell together, because most of the other people didn't know he did martial arts or didn't know he meditated or didn't know anything about him. He was just a kind of weird guy from Tidewater. And then he left out of my life when he went home. And I've never seen him again. I've never had an interaction, but he's one of those people who shaped who I am today. That the daily practice that I have, whether it's mindfulness or martial arts or my kind of pursuit of education or my pursuit of understanding, those things came from him. Now they've been nurtured and nourished over the years. I found a Zen teacher when he left. I happen to have a family friend on the phone, and she was like, "Oh, you should talk to my husband. He's been practicing Zen for 35 years." And I was like, "Oh, well, that's what Danny exposed me to. Like, let's do this." And so I got into this and I studied this kind of formal practice, and then we went, into other areas. But I was able to have this experience because this person came across my life. And that's when I realized, like, one person can dramatically change the direction of our life, for better, for worse, or just kind of in a different direction. And I aimed to be that person. Like, if I had the ability to connect with other people, or to share my story, or to share what I've learned, or to give away what was freely given to me, and that I can positively affect another person's life, that's what I want to do. That's who I want to be. And most of that came from knowing Danny.